All right, hello and welcome back to the Vallow Daybell case coverage here with me, Awen Reese. Not too much news to report today, but two items to bring to you. The first one was a tweet from Eric Grossarth that actually happened yesterday, just showing an image of the growing memorial site along the fence at Chad Daybell's property. More items are being placed there: flowers, ribbons, signs, stuffed animals. There's just a large outshowing of support from the community for the loss of JJ and Tylee. That's a beautiful image to see, as heartbreaking as it is, so I wanted to make sure and share it. You can follow Eric Grossarth on Twitter. His Twitter link is shown in the image, and I'll put it in the description below. And he's been working with Nate Eaton from East Idaho News to bring us all of the coverage of this case. So please give him a follow on Twitter. All right, also today, again, East Idaho News, they are front and center in covering this case. A couple weeks ago, Nate Eaton sat down with Suzanne Freeman and did an interview with her. Now, I didn't make a video about it at the time because I wasn't covering the case then. So I'm going to talk today about the original interview and the follow-up interview that was done this morning. For background, Suzanne Freeman worked with Chad Daybell. All right, he was a publisher, and he had published 3 of her books. Now, I'm going to put the images of her books up on the screen. They are still up on Amazon. Now, she met him through another writer about 16 years ago. This was when he was living in Springville at the time. And she was one of the first authors that he had published. Now, at the time, she worked with him because he was a pretty strict LDS publisher. And she was an LDS author, so she thought it would be a good fit. She said that Chad came across as very humble. Even one point he asked if he could add a subtitle to the book, but he was very timid about asking her that way. And she was like, just come out with it, man. What do you want? And she said he was charming and nice and polite and all of that good stuff. But at the time, he didn't talk to her about his religious beliefs or doctrines or anything like that. So he started publishing some books that were not really Mormon doctrine, right? And she felt that maybe this wasn't the right fit for her. Maybe they weren't the right mix. So at one point, he suggested that he wanted to change her writings to remove some of the more strict or stringent LDS type stuff from her books to make them more palatable to a wider audience. But she didn't like that. That wasn't the point of why she wrote her books. So that was almost the end of their business relationship. Now, she said that at one point in May, but she doesn't remember what year this was. It sounds like it was about 8 years ago. In May, he contacted her and said he wasn't publishing any more books because the call-out was about to happen. So he would be too busy, obviously, to do publishing. So Nate asked her, what's this call-out thing all about? And basically, it's what we've heard before, that some people, some groups believe, although this is not actually church doctrine, she said. So a little confused on that. I'll have to look that up. If you know, please let me know in the comments if the big call-out thing is actual church doctrine or is that just these splinter groups. So she says that the call-out, the LDS prophet will someday call all of the loyal followers to go to the camps, and that the prophet would make the call and say, it's time. And then members who are aware and in the know will go to these camps. Now, this pertains only to current active members of the church who have temple access, which means they've been approved to go to the temple, but they also have to have a food store. So if you don't have your food storage and you're not approved for temple, you can't go to these camps, so good luck to you. All right, so it's a little exclusive, a little whatever. But that was what stopped her from working with Chad primarily, is that he said, I can't publish anymore, the call-out's happening, gotta run. Now, she is a devout Mormon and believes very strongly in the church doctrine, not any of these offshoot thingies. So she said that this whole thing sounded silly, because if you want to be safe, then you don't go where the government knows about it, because they'll turn it into a concentration camp or something. So she didn't want to go. Okay, alright, so there's some interesting thinking going on with her as well. Now, she knew of the teaching long before Chad, so she knew about the whole call-out concept and idea and prepping and this before she met Chad, so it's not like he introduced her to it. But if she mentioned that it might not happen and she didn't really believe in it and wasn't going to do it, then she would be attacked and abused by people online in these church groups. And she does mention a vow. A Vow is a group called Another Voice of Warning, a very die-hard prepper, end-of-days kind of group, and we're going to be talking about them in a longer video because I have a lot to say. But for now, I think that's who she was referring to. She said that she was a member of A Vow at some point, but left it because they're a little too extreme for her taste. After all of this happened, she wanted to buy back the rights to her works, because as part of her publishing contract, Chad had the right to do whatever he wanted with her material, and she wanted it back. There were some legal problems with the contract. Her lawyer said that the contract was the worst publishing contract he'd ever seen, because it was only beneficial to Chad and not her at all. She's been in legal battles with him for quite a while over this. She mentioned an email from 2018 where they're still discussing it, so this was a long time, a very long process. At this point, I don't even know if she did get her rights back or not, so maybe we'll follow it up with her and find that out. She told Nate that Chad had never talked about portals or the 144K or anything like that. Her belief about the portals is that there are portals, but they're only for the evil side. She said angels protect us from all around, so we don't need portals, but the evil side does. So, again, there's some questionable thinking going on here with her. She said she'd never heard of zombies and dark and light spirits before. That's not part of the church doctrine. She goes on to talk about Tammy. She knew Tammy Daybell. She said that Tammy was a sweetheart. She was the heart of the business. She was very kind and genuine. And Chad would tell Suzanne that Tammy was his soulmate and they were together in past lives. I wonder if we heard that before. She thought that Chad and Tammy had a real, true love story. But she distanced herself from Chad because she didn't want to be associated with his nonsense, with some of the stuff he was currently publishing. She didn't want her name. But she also talks about the email that came through A Vow that Chad had posted after Tammy had died. And I'm going to put it up on your screen. Now, I got cut off at the bottom. I am going to go into the forum to see if it's still there so I can find it, although I'm not sure if it's posted because I believe this came through as an email, so I didn't receive it. But in October of 2019, what Chad said was, "My dear wife Tammy passed away in her sleep early Saturday, October 19th. When I awoke around 6 a.m., it was clear she had been gone for several hours. It came as a shock. I couldn't believe I had been awakened somehow, but all indications are that her spirit simply slipped away during the night. Her face looked serene, with her eyes closed and a slight smile. It was devastating to discover her that way, but I'm so grateful her death was peaceful." That's not what we heard from Chad's daughter, but all right. Moving on. "Tammy really was the anchor of our family and our publishing business. We have worked side by side from the moment we were married in the Manti Temple in 1990. It is safe to say I never would have become an author without her faith in me and her constant encouragement. Tammy herself wasn't a visionary woman, but she believed what I told her and trusted my decisions." Excuse me. "She often said that she felt like Lehi's wife, Sariah, in the Book of Mormon. My apologies if I pronounced those incorrectly. Where her faith was often tested by the unexpected twists and turns of our lives, but she was grateful when the Lord would fulfill the promises that had been made regarding our family. She had a brilliant mind, especially when it came to computers. She wore so many hats in our company, from being chief financial officer to operating our websites to designing book covers. I'm still sorting out how I'm going to cope with this tremendous loss, but thankfully I have a son whose mind works like Tammy's and will be able to muddle through these tasks, although not as efficiently as she did." Yeah. That sounds like he lost an office assistant, not his true love, his wife of many years, the mother of 5 of his children. That's a very strange statement. However, what Suzanne has to say about that is that it felt cold, it felt strange, she felt very uncomfortable after reading it, and you know what? So do I. I'm with her on that point. When Suzanne heard that the kids were missing, she heard that he had gone to Hawaii and met a widow and got married there. That was the gossip on the rumor mill in these groups that they were all in, all right? So that's kind of a significant point. She said that it didn't make any sense to her. She said the Chad she knew, and that she thought she knew, that must have been gossip. That couldn't possibly be true. Once she learned the kids were missing, and she thought, why would a man want to marry a woman that didn't know where her kids were? She just couldn't believe it. She says that she's ashamed and embarrassed and disgusted. Now, her message to Chad is, quote, We all get deceived. There are people who love you and who will back you up. Do the right thing. Jesus will still love you. Yeah. Nate asked her if he has any other messages for people out in the great wide world who are following this case. And she says, don't send me hateful messages. It's not the Christ-like way to be mean and hateful, because I might have said something that rocked your faith a little bit. I don't have time to care about what you think. Okay. I'm gonna not say anything about that. So, yes, Suzanne, you seem like a lovely woman, but it's okay. Nothing you said rocked my faith in the slightest. But keep doing you, boo. You do you. In the interview today, she said that she found an email from 2017 with Chad, and she just reread it this morning. And after she reread it, she had to call Nate right away because it upset her so much. All right, she said the email exchange was about the rights to her work. And she said that somewhere in the email, she told Chad, if you continue to publish these materials, there will be death and sorrow. Okay, now obviously, well, I'm not going to say obviously, but she seems to be implying that she was saying that as a warning to Chad. Being involved with these types of writings, it's going to bring about sorrow in the world. Now, watching her in the interview, there is a link in the description to both of these interviews. Watch the second interview and watch her face as she's talking about this. Because, first of all, she's saying she can't remember exactly what she said. Well, if you just read it this morning, is it really that hard to remember? Or could you not have printed it out or have it open on your phone while you're doing the interview? I thought that was a little fishy, but I could be reading too much into it. I just get a little bit of the heebie-jeebies from that part of the interview, like maybe this didn't exactly happen, because she certainly doesn't show us the emails. Maybe it did. I don't know. I'm very suspicious when it comes to this case, and probably with good reason. Or I could be paranoid. It's hard to tell sometimes. Anyway, towards the end of the interview, she changes her story a little bit, and she says, what she said was, I don't want my name attached to this. This is wrong. People will die. That's a little different. But, all right. Maybe someday we'll actually see the emails and get to know what she really said. Or, you know what? It doesn't really matter. She's not really a player in this case, just someone who wanted to do an interview. At one point, Nate asked her about her continued involvement in the group or anything, and she said that she'd figured they'd all be up in the hills shooting each other over food storage. And she says this like it's the most logical thing to think in the world. So, Suzanne says that she knew what he was doing was bad, and everyone was so obsessed about this call-out, and if she said the smallest thing about it, that she'd be attacked. And she's talking about a vow. The adherents of this system of faith really do not like it if they think you're speaking out against their beliefs in a pretty defensive way. So I can understand what she's saying there. But she said that she called Nate very upset this morning after reading these emails, and she thinks that maybe she predicted what happened, because she said all of this long before any of these events, and she's wondering if maybe she could have stopped it from happening, and that's eating her up inside, and I get that, and I feel bad that she feels that way, because certainly she's not responsible for what happened. All right, so that's her interview. The links are in the description. Please give it a watch. And that's all that happened in the news today about the case. I'm going to be staying on it. There are some very interesting rumors floating around, but none of them are verified, so I'm not going to talk about them yet. But trust that if you've heard a crazy rumor, I've probably heard about it, and I am digging into it with everything I have to either verify it or debunk it as just nonsense. And as soon as I have an answer one way or the other, I will bring it to you. All right, now tomorrow is Thursday. I will have a video up. Well, this would be Thursday morning's video, but I'm putting it up tonight because why wait? I'll stay on the news tomorrow if anything breaks. Now, remember, we are awaiting the autopsy reports. They could be weeks from now or they could be tomorrow. As soon as we get that, I will go live and bring you the press conference whenever it happens. So stay subscribed, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified as soon as I go live. I'm hoping we get that kind of soon. Also, I'm going to have a short video tomorrow about an event that's happening Friday night. I'm going to be doing a live stream on Friday night with Paul from Reporting Live from My Sofa. Most of you here know me because of Paul. And I can't wait to do a live with him. It's been far too long since he and I have had a good talk on YouTube about this. So we're going to be going live Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on his channel, talking about Melanie Gibb and the Letter of Doom. So please join us there. I'll put a teaser video up here tomorrow so you can be reminded of it. And please come chat, come hang out. Paul is really good about reading the comments in a live stream. I'm not so good at that. So, it'll be a great conversation and a fun time. And one last announcement. The first video in my Vallow Daybell Patreon-only series is now live. It's up on my Patreon channel. It's there because it's a pretty deep dive and a more intensive look on subjects that could ruffle some feathers, so I'm going to keep it on the Patreon channel for now. But feel free to join and take a look. I'm doing this so we can have a really good conversation about it and get a really good dialogue going. So I would be so happy to have you there with us. Please feel free to join. The link is in the description below. So until next time, please stay safe out there. Take care. Thank you for your support. I love you all, and I will talk to you soon.